is the head of that secretariat. But before then, let's have Mr. Lanre Arogundade, is the Executive Director of the International Press Center. He's joining me virtually from Akure. Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you very much for having me this evening.
All right. It's great to have you once again. Now, I mean, a lot has happened to the build-up of this particular election process in Ondo State. I would like you to, speak about, if at all, your observations and maybe reservations.
Well, in terms of observations, I could say that we've had in the past couple of days, since the beginning of this week, assurances and reassurances by the major stakeholders that everything will be done to make the election credible, that is free and fair. So first, on the part of INEC, they've had a series of engagements, which actually started the upper week with the signing of the peace accord by 18 political parties and their candidates pledging that they would conduct themselves peacefully. And the engagement continued till yesterday when INEC led the parties, agents, and so on to inspect the materials. That was on Wednesday, actually, at the CBN, the sensitive materials, to demonstrate that they were intact. At different forums, including the ones involving the International Press Center and the Center for Media and Society, as partners under the European Union support to democratic governance. The INEC representatives told us that materials and personnel will be deployed very early. And then from the security agencies also came the assurance that their men will be on ground. For example, the Civil Defense Corps said that their men would be at every polling unit. The same thing the police have said. So these are the kind of statements we've had. These are the kind of assurances that we've gotten. And the reason why we were prompting them to give us these assurances is because we intend to hold them accountable for those promises. Because it's the election day that we're going to see whether these things would materialize. In terms of words, we can say that yes, or in terms of talk, we can say we've had a lot of talk. Now we are at the moment when these agencies need to walk the talk. And this is what we're actually looking forward to, as we're just a few hours away from voting. Obviously, there have been deployments across the states. Various INEC officials have moved to their different locations, which means that they are ready. Well, in terms of reservation, we can't be talking of reservation now, given the level of assurances. But we've also reminded them to avoid a repeat of some of the shortcomings that we observed in the Edo election. For example, during the Edo off-cycle governorship election, the INEC officials reported early at their duty posts. They were ready to move with the materials. But part of the election logistics is also that the security agents have to accompany them, and they can't move unless the security agents are there. And the security agents were late in Edo State. So we raised that and we said, look, you already know the time when the polling units should, the polling booths should open. So why don't you ensure that your men are also there so that they can move, with those personnel? One area of concern for us is the role of transporters in this whole business, because INEC does not have its own independent transport system. They rely on the Road Transport Workers Union and the Road Transport Employers. Then for the riverine areas, at least 2 local governments, they're going to be relying on the Maritime Workers Union, who will be providing boats for them to move, because they're going to travel on water. They're going to travel. We raised that, and they said that they really had this assurance from these transport workers that everything would be okay. As a matter of fact, when we visited the INEC Secretariat on Wednesday, we saw so many vehicles ready to be deployed. We also actually, on a lighter but quite serious note, asked them if those vehicles were already well fueled, because we know the challenge that we're also having with fuel in the country, and they said no, everything was ready. So this is where we are. A number of observers have come to town. There have been a series of briefings by these civil society organizations, including those who are looking at the issues of women in this election, the issues of persons with disability.
Okay.
Today, so this is just where we are as far as what we've observed since we got to the States.
I know that, of course, the institute, the agency actually your agency did a press release as regards, this election, where it talked about the stakeholders in this process, being up and doing, from journalists even to political parties, and then the umpire, INEC. I would like you to speak more on the role of what some will call the beneficiaries of this process, which is the political parties. I've had on this program where some people have started raising concerns as regards issues of vote buying, issues of voter inducement and all of that. Is it okay to say that over the years, political parties really pull in their weight to ensure that processes like this are credible from your observation?
Well, I don't think they're pulling their weight. Now, one of the briefings that was held today included that of ElectR, which is another partner organization under the EUSDGN, and they presented their pre-election report. In that report, they presented the findings of opinion poll they conducted, especially among potential women voters, and they were asking them the agencies or the institutions from which they got most information about the electoral process, including voting. In other words, civic and voter education. And the result of their poll showed that the CSOs, civil society organizations, and non-governmental organizations provided more information than all other institutions at about 48%. That was followed by INEC at about 30-something percent and others. But when it came to political parties, the respondents said there were just 24% who said they got information about the voting process from the political parties. What that indicates is that political parties are not, doing their work. And in my comment at that forum, I actually said, well, it will seem as if rather than going out, educating voters, mobilizing their supporters, the political parties are probably just looking at, inducement, vote buying, which is a problem, which has been part of our conversation, for example. And the position of INEC is that, well, there is what the law requires is that within the 300-meter radius of each polling unit, no other activity is supposed to take place other than people coming in to cast their vote. In other words, vote buying cannot take place within that precinct. But then what happens outside of that radius? That has been the question. And they said, well, the security agencies are well mobilized, but we do know that vote buying has also moved with technology. So it's not something that perhaps you can see, physically. And this is a major problem. But we can also look at it from the point of view of the people. Why do people still feel that they should take money? And the basic reason from all studies, research, observations is that people feel that that is the only thing they can get. They don't really have that hope that when people get elected, they will do what they promise to do. And that means that we need to do more to hold those we elect accountable. Because if people see elements of fulfillment of promises, perhaps they could be encouraged. So these are some of the challenges that we see in relation to that. So when it comes to stakeholders, we need to do more to hold political parties accountable, not just in terms of campaigning for votes or even getting elected, on their responsibilities. They leave their responsibilities to civil society organizations, to INEC, which is already overburdened, particularly when you are looking at the issue of civic and voter education. So this is just the indication that we've gotten from our observation.
All right. There's also the issue of trust in the process, particularly from Nigerians. We know that over time, elections like this have come and gone, and when you ask many Nigerians, there are strong reservations as regards how it went, people will still come out to say, you know what, it was rigged and it wasn't free and fair. So what do you think an agency like INEC, which is the major umpire, can do differently this time around to ensure that voter confidence is boosted?
Well, it's very, very simple. It's for INEC to live by its promise, to fulfill what it is promised. So, for example, the question of ensuring that BVAS, which is the primary voting tool now, because BVAS is going to be used to accredit voters, and when voting is concluded in each polling unit and the votes are counted, then it is BVAS that will be used to snap the results from EC8, which will then be uploaded to IREV, which is just a display board. IREV is not the collation, center. We raised this with them, and they said they expect the BVAS to work, and they already have backup in case there are technical issues. That is at that level. They've also said that results will be uploaded to IREV for people to see the progress of the voting. What will be uploaded on IREV are just results from the polling units, not that it will be used to declare the winner, because our electoral law still makes collation manual. That is what the law says. So in spite of the fact that you can see the result on IREV, invariably it will still be done manually at the different stages of collation. So for INEC, it's just to ensure that these things happen. It's to ensure that we don't have incidents of delay in movement of personnel and materials on election day. I guess that is what they need to do for the trust which has been affected, can gradually get it back from the people. That is important. But it's also important to say that when it comes to the process, the political parties too must do their duties very well on election day. Each political party that is contesting this election that has
Mr. Lanre Arogundade, are you there? I think we... Okay.
Yeah, just to quickly conclude, the agents are very, very important, because at each polling unit, they're supposed to see that the process is okay. If they see anything going on, they're supposed to raise it and report. And then when the result is declared, they're supposed to sign and have copy. So that whether result goes to IREV or not, each political party should have the result from all the polling units. And that will be the evidence that you need, particularly if you find yourself in a situation whereby you want to maybe challenge the result or not. So, but you see, some of these political parties just get agents who don't even understand the process, because the whole process is transactional. We need to have agents. Okay, they just grab anybody and put them there. So when we talk of building trust in the process, political parties also have a role to play, and it's not just the INEC alone.
All right, just in 30 seconds before I let you go, the role of the press in all of this, because at the end of the day, information is conveyed through the press. So in 30 seconds, how do you think our job, in this process, how do you think it can be efficient?
Well, I think it can be efficient if we do not have a molestation by security agents. And this is also one of the promises we've tried to extract from the police and even the army, that we don't want any molestation of journalists that are accredited to cover the elections, and that they need to treat journalists with respect, because the vehicles will have election duty tags. They also going to wear INEC tags, and they're going to have the identity cards. Then we've also tried to remind the security agents that some journalists are accredited to be at the collation centers. So they shouldn't just see journalists at the accreditation center and begin to chase them and begin to molest them. We would not like to see that. We've advised our colleagues going to the field to be very conscious of their safety. Those who are going to be deployed to cover elections in the riverine areas, we have told them, do not enter any boat that does not have safety jackets. As a matter of fact, ask your employer to provide safety jacket for you, so that even if the boat owners don't have, nothing says you cannot have it yourself. Either you buy it or you rent it. Because recently we've lost journalists to boat mishaps, particularly in Bayelsa State. We do not want that to repeat itself. So we have asked our journalists to take their safety seriously, watch out. We hope that there will be no outbreak of violence, but we say, look, dress properly, be well kitted, so that if there is a need for you to run, you know how to run. And they should also have contact details of the DPO. We have advised them to get in touch with the first PRO in this state, who has been very proactive and quite open. They should reach her so that they can get contact numbers of DPOs in case there's any problem. But more importantly, the political parties should restrain some of their overzealous supporters from attacking journalists. Because the analysis of attacks on journalists that we've done at previous elections showed that the perpetrators are not just security agents, they also include political party agents who, for example, would target journalists who work for maybe state media or private media whose owners have political interests. Our position is that they should understand, for journalists on the field, their political party is journalism. They don't belong to any other political parties. So we hope with all this, our journalists will be safe and they will be able to report factually without also slipping into the error of carrying any form of disinformation or misinformation.
All right, thank you so much for your time on the program. Mr. Lanre Arogundade is the Executive Director of the International Press Center. Once again, thank you for being on Politics HQ on News Central TV. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right.